Script breakdown. A lone figure stands on the edge of a city rooftop at dawn, gazing out over the awakening metropolis. The sky glows pink and gold as sunlight slowly creeps over the buildings. The world is silent except for the distant hum of the city below. The figure closes their eyes, taking a deep, slow breath. Their hands rest calmly at their sides, steady and relaxed. The wind ruffles their hair, but their expression is serene and untroubled. Inside a small, tidy apartment, the figure sits cross-legged on the floor. Morning light streams through the window, illuminating dust motes floating in the air. A journal lies open nearby, but the pen remains untouched. In a busy coffee shop, the figure sits alone at a corner table. Around them, people chatter and laugh, but the figure focuses on their cup of tea, steam swirling in the quiet space between their hands. Walking through a crowded street, the figure moves with purpose. Horns honk and people jostle, but the figure's eyes are fixed ahead, undistracted by the chaos. Their path is clear even as the world blurs around them. The figure stands before a large window in an office high above the city. Their reflection stares back at them, strong and determined. They adjust their posture and smile softly at themselves. At the gym, the figure lifts weights in steady, controlled motions. Others grunt and shout, but the figure remains silent, their focus unbroken. Sweat beads on their brow as their muscles tense and release. On a quiet park bench, the figure watches birds dart between trees. A gentle breeze stirs the grass at their feet. They close their eyes again, letting go of any stray thoughts. In a library, the figure sits surrounded by books, a single notebook open in front of them. They read, taking slow, deliberate notes, blocking out the whispers and footfalls around them. The figure strolls along a riverbank at sunset, the city skyline reflected in the water. They pause to watch the colors shift on the surface, their face illuminated with quiet wonder. At home, the figure prepares a simple meal. They chop vegetables with calm precision, the rhythmic sound of the knife soothing in the still kitchen. The figure practices yoga in a sunlit room, moving through each pose with grace and intention. Their breathing is deep and even, their mind focused only on the present moment. In a dimly lit room, the figure sits on the floor, eyes closed, hands resting gently on their knees. A candle flickers, casting warm shadows across their peaceful features. The figure walks through a rain-soaked street, umbrella in hand. Water splashes at their feet, but they move unhurried, savoring the freshness in the air. Back on the rooftop at night, the figure looks up at a star-studded sky. The city lights twinkle below, but here above it all, there is only silence and possibility. In a quiet art studio, the figure sketches carefully, each pencil stroke deliberate and thoughtful. Their concentration is unwavering as a new creation takes shape. The figure hikes alone through a dense forest, sunlight filtering through the leaves overhead. Their footsteps are soft, blending with the rustle of nature around them. At a track, the figure jogs in the early morning mist. Their breath forms clouds in the cool air. Each stride is measured, their focus inward, not on the finish line but on the journey. The figure sits on a balcony at dusk, sipping tea as city lights flicker on below. They watch quietly, a small smile on their lips, content in their solitude. In a classroom, the figure listens intently, taking careful notes. Others raise hands or whisper, but the figure remains silent, absorbing every word. The figure tends a small garden, hands buried in the soil. They plant seeds with gentle care, watching as earth crumbles through their fingers. At a museum, the figure stands before a painting, studying every detail. The room is hushed. Time slows as they lose themselves in the colors and forms. In a cozy bedroom, the figure tidies their belongings, folding clothes and making the bed. Their movements are unhurried, creating order and peace. The figure cycles along a quiet country road, fields stretching out on either side. The wind rushes past, carrying away stray thoughts. On a mountaintop at sunrise, the figure stands with arms raised, welcoming the new day. The world stretches out below, vast and full of promise. The figure writes in their journal by candlelight, thoughts flowing in silence. Each word is an act of self-reflection and discovery. At the beach, the figure walks barefoot along the shoreline, waves lapping at their feet. They stop to watch the horizon, breathing in the salty air. In a workshop, the figure builds something by hand, each tool movement steady and precise. Sawdust drifts in the sunbeams, and their face glows with satisfaction. The figure meditates in a tranquil garden, surrounded by blooming flowers. Bees buzz nearby, but their mind remains still and centered. At a lakeside dock, the figure sits with legs dangling above the water. They skip stones, watching the ripples spread in widening circles. The figure stands in a bookstore, browsing shelves of unread stories. They select a book, savoring the quiet anticipation of a new adventure. In a dance studio, the figure moves alone, lost in the rhythm of the music. Their expression is focused, every muscle engaged in silent expression. The figure volunteers at an animal shelter, gently petting a shy dog. Their care is quiet and patient, earning the animal's trust. At sunrise, the figure begins a run through empty city streets, breathing in the cool, fresh air. The city is still, offering space to think and be. In a pottery class, the figure shapes clay on a spinning wheel, hands steady and sure. The room is filled with the soft hum of creation. The figure pauses at a scenic overlook, taking photos of the breathtaking view. Each click is a silent celebration of beauty. At home, the figure assembles a puzzle, patiently fitting pieces together. The world outside fades away as the image slowly comes together. The figure sits on a rooftop garden, surrounded by greenery and twinkling lights. They savor a moment of stillness beneath the night sky. In a quiet corner of a museum, the figure sketches in a notepad, drawing inspiration from ancient artifacts. The figure reads quietly at a park, turning pages slowly as children play in the distance. At a mountaintop campsite, the figure watches the stars, wrapped in a blanket, face illuminated by the glow of a small campfire. The figure sits at a piano in a sunlit room, fingers gliding over the keys in a gentle, private melody. Chopping, stirring, and tasting with mindfulness. The figure sits in a sunlit cafe, doodling in a sketchbook as the world passes by outside the window. The final scene returns to the rooftop at sunrise. The figure stands tall, eyes closed, breathing deeply, silent, focused, and ready for the day.